Greetings and welcome to my top 5 Star Wars Battlefront 2 tips, where I go over some of the most important things to keep in mind on the battlefront. Let's jump right in with number 1. Maintain situational awareness at all times. Unless your name is Han Solo, blindly shoulder charging into situations usually isn't the best idea, and even then, it's not usually recommended. Instead, act like a character that actually wants to stay alive, by first assessing the situation and then responding appropriately. These assessments come in the form of such things as making sure that your character is as covered as possible using terrain, objects, and abilities when needed to limit your exposure to fire while giving you as many angles of attack as possible. Situational awareness also includes things like listening carefully, regularly glancing at the radar, corner peeking before moving, using abilities to reveal and mark enemies for yourself and teammates, and more. One of the things that I'll emphasize about this topic is that while glancing at the radar is important, there are times when relying too much on tech will hold you back.
Use the Force, Luke. Let go, Luke.
The Force is strong in this weapon.
Luke, trust me.
There will be moments when you'll see an enemy on the radar, but they won't be at an elevation that you expected due to terrain or abilities. And you might be killed while trying to figure out where they are based on radar, when just looking around and not getting tunnel visioned would have enabled you to locate the threat in time. So do your best to confine deep, longing radar gazes to mere glances. There are also times when enemies will be hidden from your radar altogether even when firing, thanks to their loadout. I can't tell you how often just listening carefully for enemy footsteps has saved me from sneaky infiltrator scouts who were hidden from radar. Listening carefully has served me especially well on maps like Takodana, which is usually saturated with sneaks. Just keep in mind that if you hear footsteps but don't see a friendly blip nearby on your radar, then that means that there's an infiltrator coming, and you can prepare to defend, ambush them, or hunt them down. So again, never get so distracted or reliant on the radar that you miss what's actually happening right in front of you. It's also absolutely essential to learn every map's layout, and to always pay attention to your positioning in each phase. In Starfighter maps, for example, always be aware of getting too far away from your team's spawn points and drifting too close to the enemies, or you'll soon find yourself overwhelmingly swarmed and floating in a cloud of your former ship's debris. Tip number 2. Play the objectives. No matter how powerful you are, you cannot win alone, and having a high KD means nothing if your team loses. In certain phases, staying alive is certainly important, but never at the expense of the overall victory when sacrificing your life would help win. On the other hand, there are times when avoiding all casualties is exactly what's most needed to achieve the objective and overall victory. There are several important things to keep in mind about playing the objective, but it all begins with class selection. Different classes will often best contribute to playing the objective and to overall victory in different ways. Each of the classes complements the others in the team unless used incorrectly. Take Starfighter for example. Bombing targets is extremely important to the shipyards map, and so bombers are key, as is defending those bombers from attack. That means if you're using a bomber to destroy the objectives, then you're playing admirably. But if you're flying an interceptor and spending most of your time pew-pewing objectives with your little concussion rocket rather than peeling enemies off of the bombers, then you might want to rethink a few things, beginning with your class. If you want to play like a bomber, then be a bomber. If you want to be an interceptor, then play like an interceptor, and I guarantee that way you'll increase your chances of achieving victory. If you're attacking the Palace of Naboo and you've only got a limited number of reinforcements, then choosing a glassy 100 hit point infiltrator over a 200 hit point heavy that's equipped with a great pushing and holding kit might not be the best idea. And the second most important part of playing the objective is also the third overall tip to keep in mind, which is use teamwork. Anyone know the call of the Dathomirian Blue Falcon?
Fuck off!
Avoid interfering with your own teammates when they're playing the objectives. And again, think about what class and strategy would help your team the most. If you're a squishy 100 hit point infiltrator, then it might be best if you used your hunter scanner ability to secure the area, while a heavy who can absorb much more damage picks up the ion cannon and fires it as you cover them with recon or sniping. Popping your scanner ability at the very beginning of the game for speed might help you reach the ion cannon first, but then you'll most likely be swarmed by enemies with much or all of your team trailing behind, unable to help. And even if you're able to pick up the cannon for the measly amount of points, you'll still be far out of range of the objective anyway and will probably die trying to get there. Only now the ion cannon will be even closer to the enemy spawn, which makes it even harder to pick back up again and secure the area so it can be fired. Instead, it would be much better to move as a team to secure the area, pick up the ion cannon, and then protect the carrier as a group while they move into range of the objective and fire. Another good reason to glance at your radar is in order to stay near your teammates for backup. Never go lone wolf if sticking together would better serve the objective and increase your chances of victory or survival. Number 4. Spend wisely. How you spend your battle points can really mean the difference between victory and defeat. Some people will hoard their points for the entire battle, just to get a hero near the end that they might unfortunately die with almost immediately, through perhaps little or no fault of their own, when picking something like a walker, a ship, or a turret may have not only secured them enough points to get a hero, but may have completely turned the battle in their team's favor as well. Never underestimate the value of the other options in appropriate situations. Ships, for example, are great for strafing ion cannons as they attempt to get into position and fire, since they're conveniently marked on your map, while walkers are fantastic for running over clankers in defense of the Palace of Naboo's east and west terminals, whereas the tanky ground units are key to holding the throne room. Now, don't get me wrong, heroes can certainly be great, and they can definitely turn the battle in your team's favor when played well, but they also do take more skill to play this time around, and they may not always be the best tool for the job compared to one of the other options, and I'm just recommending that you consider the overall situation in that context before spending your points. And for those who do find themselves in that situation where you scrounge for points the whole game in order to finally get to play one of the heroes or villains, just to die almost immediately after you spawn, keep tip number 5 in mind, which is, don't rage, learn. Typically, we play games to de-stress from life and have fun, so getting stressed and raging over a game is self-defeating and doesn't help anything or anyone, least of all you. Every time you die and or lose a game, rather than raging, take that experience as the opportunity that it is to learn how you could have avoided death, defeated the enemy, and or achieved victory. Every negative experience can be a learning opportunity, and all of your failures and defeats can serve to help you become better, if you allow them to, by disciplining your mind to rule your body and your emotions, rather than letting your emotions rule your body and your mind. In that vein, recording your gameplay and studying it can be very helpful in learning what you could have done better, and or to learn the clever tactics and strategies that your enemies use to instruct you, and to come up with ways to counter or improve upon them for next time. And that's all for my top 5 Battlefront 2 tips. Except I'm also including combat evasion as an honorable mention because of how much it's been changed from the last game. This time around, you can no longer fire while dodge rolling, so it's become a purely evasive maneuver that can either save you or get you killed depending on whether or not it's used correctly. Typically, you don't want to dodge roll anymore in the middle of a firefight unless it's purely to help you disengage from and avoid incoming fire. especially since now there's a limit to how many times it can be used in a row before a cooldown. I would suggest that if you're used to the last game where every fight had more rolls than a bakery, you might want to use single player in arcade to help you break that rolling habit, or it might get you killed a lot. The traditional FPS 80-80 jump and jive and dance is now again the primary form of combat evasion in most medium and short range combat scenarios, so keep that in mind. Anyway, that's it. If you found this information helpful and you're interested in more guides, I am indeed working on tutorials and walkthroughs for every map, class, hero, and more. So, if you're interested in getting notified when those videos get posted, then please subscribe and click the little bell to receive notifications. Thank you all very much for your time, and may the Force be with you.